Hello everyone, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can custom your script in Unity Engine using the editor script. As you can see, we have this example script which contains 4 variables: damage, armor, gun, and the string name. And if you go into our scene, this is how our script look like without any custom script. So let's start. I'm going to create a new script. So we're going to use this script to make our custom editor. Now it's not necessary you name it editor and after the name of a script you can name it whatever you want. I'm not going to need the start function or the update. I'm going to include the Unity editor, and instead of mono behavior we're gonna add editor. Now to make it include our script, we're going to add here the custom script. Now remember, you need to include your script here in the custom editor attribute. Now what we need to do is to add our serialized property. So for example, we are going to use the serialized property to actually access the variables in our target script. So now we need to assign our actual properties. Now this is how we can access our variables of the target script and use them in our editor. Now be careful that the string is a very case sensitive, so you need to match the names of your variables in the target script and use them in the custom editor. Now to start actually editing the look of our script in the editor, we need to actually override a function which is onSpectre on GUI. Now to make sure that our serialized properties are actually updated, we need to add the serialized object.update. And after we finish editing our properties, we need to actually apply the settings. Now we can add what we want in between. We need to make sure that we update and apply the modified property. Now I'm going to add a few stuff using our editor GUI layout. Now all I did here that I add a slider to our integer damage, the same for our armor, and a property field for our game object gun, the same thing for our string which is the name. I have our script attached to the playing game object, and this is what we see after we make our editor. We have this slider and we have both of our fields here. Now I'm going to add the base of the uninspected GUI just so we can tell the difference between the fields without the custom editor and the fields after we edit them in the editor. Now adding this actually will show us both fields, whether they are actually edited by the custom editor we have or the normal fields from the actual script. As you can see, we can see both. Now normally you don't need to use this, but I'm going to use it just to show you the difference in our script after we edit it in the custom editor. Now in our custom editor, we can add more visuals, or if you want we can add messages, buttons to activate some certain functions, and so on. And let me show you an example for our sliders. Simply what I did here that I added a progress bar for our integers, which is damage and armor. Now this is what they will look like in our inspector. Simply I can actually modify them here, and we can see there is some visuals depend on when they are. Another thing that we need to know about is if we have multiple scripts in our scene, we need to actually make sure that we can modify them multiple variables. Adding this if condition will allow you to edit multiple objects of the same time as long as they have the same value. If you ever wanted to actually modify your values like a drop down menu, let me show you how to do that. As you can see, we have now a drop down menu that can actually choose which one. As you can see, we are in none, that means the armor is 0. If you put low, we have armor 25, and high, which is the maximum in this case, and medium. As you can see, if you want to make a drop down for any value you want, you can use this. Now we need to mention that serialized properties aren't the only way to access our variables in the target script. We can simply add it as a variable in our editor script. Now using this variable, which is test script, we can access multiple things in our target script, which is example. I'm going to use this way to actually create a password field for our name variable. As you can see, we have the password field. This field now acts as our password. So if I want to type here, it actually modifies the custom property. And of course, we can add a help box in some place in our inspector here. And you can actually modify the message type into an error if it need to show an error, an information, none, or a warning, depend on the situation of the script. In my case, it will be an information, and this is how the help box will appear in our editor. Now we have other ways if you want to add an help box or something similar. Let me show you. Now what we did here is we actually declare a GUI style, which is the mbox, and then I edit the graphical user interface style the way I want. You can actually modify these settings, and I begin a vertical, add the content that I want and a labeled field to it, and then of course we need to end that vertical. Now this is how it looks in our script. Basically, I suppose I messed up something. Now let me show you how, if you want to draw a button in your inspector and use this button to actually trigger some functions. Now simply what I did here, that I actually created this function that draws our button with a given GUI content and return a boolean if this button is pressed or not, and if true then trigger this function, which is actually a debug.log for hello you pressed a button. Simply this is the button, that how it looks in our editor. We have our empty debug, and as you can see, every click actually triggers the function, and you can use this button to actually trigger function inside the target script. Let me show you. Now what I did here, that I used our variable here, which is we declared previously, to access the fun fact function that we have in our target script, which is actually make a log in our debug. Let me empty here. And yep, as you can see, it actually triggers the function in our target script. Now the reason I'm making our button is by a function, not actually writing this code in the on-inspector GUI, is the possibility to use it multiple times instead of actually repeating the actual code. For example, if I want to draw a button, I need to write this code, which is if I want to draw another, it's probably I need to write this code again in our on-inspector GUI. But since it is now being written as a function, I can call this function and draw multiple buttons instead of drawing the button call every time. This is why I make it as a function in the first place. And you can do this and draw multiple buttons as much as you want. So I have this display button here that we actually call the debugger, which is this function. Now we have the empty log. I have two buttons here. One, which is actually trigger the function inside our target script, and the hello there actually trigger the debugger function, which is in our custom editor. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I would like to see you on next time.